on January 21st, 2021 for this meeting of the Ascension Parish Council. We are on video conference certainly in light of all of the COVID restrictions in our community and in our state and in our nation. We want to be considerate of each other's health and that of the people who need to be with us. So we are going to be virtual until it is appropriate for us to be back in the building. There is a phone number for public comment that you can call, and you will have time then to comment on an issue that is before us. That comment number is 225-621-8636, and you would enter participant code 939496. When you make that call, you will be placed into a queue, and at the end of the comment period or call-in period, your comments will be allowed, and we look forward certainly to hearing from you on any issue that you might have. Also different in these virtual meetings is that the agenda will be read in its entirety by the council secretary, and we will do that pretty shortly. So I am calling this meeting to order, and I would like to ask at this time that Councilman Coach Thomas please lead us in the prayer, followed by the invocation.
Thank you, Ms. Chair Lady. Before we get started, I would like to recognize and to ask that each of us keep Ms. Ethel Shivers in our prayers. Ms. Ethel was the mother of Pat Chris Shivers, the DPW supervisor, the aunt of Martha Shivers, plan and flood plan manager, and the sister-in-law of Joan Shivers, professional project manager, passed away on Monday, January 18th, 2021. Also, Mr. John Graves' father, of the U.S. Representative Garrett Graves, passed away on Saturday, January 16, 2021, at the age of 79. Also, we have Mr. John Calvin Brower, the father-in-law of Ms. Kim Brower, assistant to the parish president, passed away on Friday, January 15, at the age of 85. Elliot and Joyce Barker, the grandparents of Jeremy Sloop, building inspector. And also Miss Bobby Leftwich. Please keep those in your prayers, and let us bow our heads. Most Heavenly Father, as we come, Lord, at this hour in the evening, we are very grateful and very thankful, Lord, for allowing us to be here tonight. And Lord, as we bow, Lord, I pray that you bless the meeting, bless each and every councilman that's here, bless their families, continue to bless us, Lord, as we move forward this 2021 year. Father, we ask you, Lord, to allow us the strength, the courage, the knowledge, the understanding to continue to move forward this parish of Ascension. Bless us, Lord, and help us to do your will. We thank you, Lord, very much, Lord. We ask that you, and only you knows what's best. We ask this in your mighty name, and we all say amen, and thank God. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God,
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Senator, I believe that I have everyone but Mr. Lambert. I don't see Dempsey.
He said he was going to be running late, Terry.
Okay, thank you very much. There are no chairs additions. At this time, we will go into that public comment period, keeping in mind that that phone number is 225-621-8636, and that participant code is 939496. Senator, if you will please begin the reading of the agenda.
Resolution to change the name of Tommy King Road to Carmen Street. Approval of change order TO0101 balancing change order for asphalt concrete pavement preservation 2019 through 2020 task 1. Approval of substantial completion asphalt concrete pavement preservation 2019 through 2020 task 1. Approval of change order T00201 balancing change order for asphalt concrete pavement preservation 2019 through 2020 task 2. Approval of substantial completion asphalt concrete pavement preservation 2019 through 2020 task 2. Amendment number 3 to retainer contract for consultant support services for the Ascension Parish Recreation Department Meyer Engineers to increase the total contract amount by an additional $39,900 and to include modifications to the construction documents to revise the flooring system to wooden floors with required accessories for the Lamar Dixon Expo Center Gymnasium expansion and to extend the contract term through June 30th, 2022. Total amount of contract not to exceed $288,900. Amendment number 1 to professional services contract Acadian Ambulance Service for additional services rendered in the amount of $15,100 through December 31st, 2020. Total amount of contract not to exceed $40,000. Approval of Resolution 2020 Louisiana Audit Compliance Questionnaire. Be it resolved that the Council of the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana hereby adopts the Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire for the 2020 audit of the government of the Parish of Ascension. Be it further resolved that the Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire be presented to auditors Falcon Winkler, said audit firm approved by the Ascension Parish Council and the State of Louisiana Legislative Auditor. Amendment number 1 to professional services contract Alicia Massey, LPCS for Ascension Parish Counseling for additional services rendered for an additional amount of $925. Total contract amount shall not exceed $34,925. Bid quote items to accept lowest responsive bid as follows. Installation of 400 kilowatt generator at Public Utilities West, quote request Delcon LLC, $52,168. Asphaltic concrete reconstruction and overlay improvements rebid 2020 RJ Daigle & Sons Contractors Inc., $2,334,052.45. 3M traffic control signs, materials and supplies, Vulcan signs. Animal shelter renovations, BRP Construction LLC, $290,988.89. Acceptance of lowest responsive bid for oil and grease, Suncoast Resources Inc. for general use across parish facilities. Approval to apply for the year 2020 through 2021 Community Water Enrichment Fund Grant, $64,500 funding. Approval to apply for the 2020 through 2021 Louisiana Government Assistance Program Grant, $100,000 funding, no match. Amendment number 4 to automated fleet fuel system and supplier for on-site dispensing, off-site dispensing, and bulk deliveries to renew the original contract for an additional year beginning on February 1st, 2021. Approval to hire an independent auditor to audit the billing process of PUA and ACUD number 1 from 2016 to 2020. Resolution to direct Ascension Parish government through its president to prepare no later than February 19, 2021 for council approval to call for an election in accordance with LA Revised Statute 334341 on April 24, 2021 for qualified electors in Ascension Parish to approve the conveyance and franchise agreement. Zoning Review ID PZ 2441.20 Lot A1 be in the re-subdivision of Lot A, formerly a portion of the James E. Gore property for Shane Anderson, located on the south side of LA Highway 431, approximately 1,500 feet east of Airline Highway, to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium intensity residential to mixed use corridor. Zoning Commission recommends denial of this rezone. Zoning Review ID PZ 2497.20 lots 42A1 of the Ascension Commerce Center 5th filing and lots 51 through 56 of Ascension Commerce Center 6th filing for LJ Grizafi, located on the east side of Industrial Drive, approximately 1,400 feet south of LA Highway 73, to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from light industrial to heavy industrial. Approval to proceed to introduction of ordinance to amend the Development Code Appendix 1 Table B zoning tables to add convenience stores with gas pumps in a light industrial zoning district. Zoning Commission recommends approval of the amendment. Introduction of ordinance providing for the incurring of debt and issuance of not to exceed $5,965,000. Aggregate principal amount of Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana revenue refunding bonds in one or more series, library refunding bonds. Introduction of an ordinance to declare surplus 2 York chillers from Lamar Dixon Expo Center, parish asset number 27955 and parish asset number 27956. Introduction of an ordinance, budget amendment number 1, approval to amend the 2021 budget.
Thank you, Cinnamon, very much. At this time, we will go into that call-in period, and I believe that during that call-in period, which will last 30 minutes, the parish president's report will begin. And Councilman Lambert has joined us. Mr. President.
Good evening, Madam Chair and council members. I wanted to start off this evening. My presentation for the parish president's report will be brief. We have SSA presenting also during the parish president's report, so I'll keep my comments brief. This week, we partnered once again.
Somebody please mute.
So this week, we partnered once again with Ochsner Health System to provide free coronavirus testing at the Lemon Center in Donaldsonville. Yesterday and today, we had a total of 69 people come through for testing. We continue to have testing provided by the Louisiana National Guard at Lamar Dixon every day from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., completely free. We had some good news. Ascension Parish percent positivity rate is down from 18.5 to 14.8. So we're glad to see those numbers declining, but we still need all of our citizens to continue wearing masks, washing their hands, and practicing social distance. I want to encourage anyone that has any symptoms or has been notified that they were in close contact with a positive COVID case to please go get tested. Currently, we have 8 locations in Ascension Parish that are administering the vaccine, 2 locations in Donaldsonville. Ascension Parish has over 26 locations requesting to be approved for vaccination locations. This will include medical facilities, more pharmacies, Walmart stores, and Walgreens locations throughout our parish. The current supply of the vaccine has been limited across the state. We are currently in phase 1A and 1B of tier 1. Currently, hospital workers, some medical workers, emergency medical services, fire services, and persons 70 years of age or older can receive the vaccine. So we're also really excited to let everyone know that registration is going on now for our parish youth baseball program. Kids aged 3 to 18 can register online at apbaseball.com, or you can go in person on January 23rd at Impact Sports, 1943 South Burnside Avenue in Gonzales. So at this time, I will turn it over to Priscilla Slaughter with SSA and Cody, and or take any questions that you want to do before we do that.
Thank you. Mr. Ogeron.
Not a question, Mr. President, but a confirmation of the good works of your DPW and transportation teams this week. I was alerted first thing Tuesday morning to a sinkhole in Bouillon Crossing subdivision on Marketplace Street, which is the main street leading up to the Bouillon Crossing Elementary. Your team had already barricaded the street, marked the sinkhole, addressed issues with the neighbors, and I learned this first thing this morning that someone on your team got a report that children were playing in the hole. So at an extra expense and extra work, your teams went out there, they filled the hole with asphalt and crushed concrete as a temporary fix while they're trying to find out what was the cause of the situation. All in all, I mean, it was a great team effort by everybody around. I want to thank you and Mr. Diaz for taking my calls and helping to facilitate getting that issue taken care of. Awesome team effort, great way to start 2021. Truly appreciate it from District 4.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Orgeron. I know the team loves to hear those things, and obviously we're working on all the issues that all the councilmen have brought to our attention over the past couple of weeks. So yeah, these issues are complicated, just like this one, and it may involve a third party coming in to see exactly what happened when we talk about sinkholes of this magnitude. So yeah, we're on it, and I know the team is very appreciative of those comments. I can tell you they love to hear that from the councilman. So thank you very much.
Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Ms. Chair Lady. And Mr. President, I too would like to thank you for the COVID-19 testing that I got a lot of response about it, that they had to service at the Lemon Center for, it was the second time in the month of January that we had 2 days of service for the COVID testing, and they were real pleased. The people that I talked to that called and talked to me about it, they was real pleased about it, and we appreciate it very much. Also, I want to thank you, Mr. David Weil and Mr. GSA for the introduction for the watershed project to the city. It was real good. They was real pleased, and I want to thank you for acknowledging myself as the chairman of West Ascension Drainage and allowing us to participate in working together in moving this project forward and trying to get the necessary funds to do the necessary job on the West Bank with the drainage. Also, I want to thank you again for the vaccine places. I was called earlier in the month about vaccine. We had 3 places on the East Bank with the vaccine, and we didn't have any over here, but that was taken care of shortly. And I thank you for it, for those places on the West Bank for the vaccines in doing so. Very good job. And again, I'd like to also say we're going well in 2021. Looking good, looking up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Thomas. We certainly want to give some recognition to OEP and Rachel Wilkinson over there, as well as our very own in administration here, Ruth Phillips, for coordinating a lot of those vaccines and staying on top of that information from minute to minute as that data changes oftentimes throughout the day. So they've been working hard to ensure that. So yeah, we want to send a special shout out to them, as well as our health department, who will be administering vaccines in the near future. They're working very hard digitally to get set up, make sure all the controls are in place, coordinate with the fire departments and other departments that have administered the vaccines already, getting as much information as possible. So super excited that they're all working well together. And we appreciate the compliments, Coach. Thank you a lot. And yeah, a great start to 2021.
Mr. President, would you like to go on to Ms. Christelle and her group?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. Just wanted to make sure there wasn't any further questions, but at this time, we'd like to go ahead and pass it on to Christelle.
Thank you, President Quinma, and Madam Chairwoman and council members. Thank you. We were here about a month ago, and we talked about some of the work that we were doing in 3 major areas, and you asked us to do a little more work in DPW as part of our initial assessment, and we have done that, and we wanted to come and give you a report tonight and a little bit of a report on progress in some other areas. So if we could turn the slide, please, to the next slide. Again, this is just one glimpse of the project plan. There are a lot of moving parts to the overall project. But again, we were working with the departments of Public Works and Transportation, the Mental Health Unit, the Public Health Unit, and working with Finance and looking at opportunities for more accountability. So on the next slide, we wanted to show you some of the things in aggregate that we have done in DPW and Transportation. And what we wanted to do was really understand issues, as well as strengths and any opportunities. But are there some roadblocks to improving citizen services, especially since DPW, and when I say that I mean transportation as well, is one of the most visible areas for most parishes or counties or municipalities. So we have in total conducted over 50 interviews, which each one ranges from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. I think the very first one that we did went over 2 hours. We realized we'd never get through it after spending that much time. So significant amount of time. There was a supervisors meeting to talk about training. It was actually like a large focus group, and we were invited to sit in on that, and we were very appreciative and learned a lot from their comments. We did conduct 2 focus groups after we spoke with you last time, and those were very, very helpful. And I think the energy in the focus group really helped people feel comfortable to talk about items that were important to them. We also held DPW and Transportation Leadership Retreat, which was about a day long. We had it offsite in our offices and in our large conference room, and it was a great success. You'll see some of the things that we talked about at that retreat. And finally, as we told you when we came here before, we were going to try to administer a survey for all of DPW and transportation employees. That was challenging because we had the Christmas holidays right in between when we were with you last, and I really wasn't optimistic that I could come back to you and talk about the survey, except to say that it was in progress. But at the leadership retreat, we passed out the draft survey, we got comments, opportunities for more open-ended questions and where people could provide a lot of input. And I have to tell you, when we prepared these slides, we knew it was over 90%. We believe we got a 92% response rate. And I have to tell you, that is amazing for so many reasons. For one thing, I think it was, the leadership that embraced the idea of trying to give their employees an opportunity to speak up and speak out. We pretty much took all the demographic information off of the survey. We did ask for length of service, 0 to 5 years, et cetera. And we had not gone through those crosstabs yet. So we do want to come back and talk to you a little bit more about the findings, but I will just tell you that that's an amazing response rate, and there are amazing comments in there. Not everybody's happy. But a lot of people really enjoy their jobs and enjoy serving the citizens of Ascension Parish. We're happy to write that down. So very, very positive. And on the next slide, I want to highlight some of the findings from mainly the focus groups and individual interviews and the leadership retreat. So pretty much the rank and file up to the supervisor level. Very sincere interest in understanding the priorities and having regular meetings to identify and track metrics. We were surprised at your operators and some of your frontline employees who could tell us if we wanted to track the metrics of what they do every day, whether it's mowing or laying asphalt or whatever, that they have work orders, they have this, they have that. It's not all electronic and that easy to pull together, but we can. And we're very pleased to hear that. And they were eager to find out, well, how much should we mow in a day? What's the expectation? What in a year, what would you expect to see with drainage ditches, et cetera? So there's really very, very interesting and positive comments there. Definitely, we need better communications. And again, they want the parish president to come visit DPW. Some of them want him to bring donuts, some just want to visit. They ask for more training, leadership training down to the supervisor level, but frontline employees want training on how to use the equipment, how to use the equipment that they are not trained to use now, because that is one way to advance your career in DPW. And there's generally a lack of comfort with computers. So if we are going to really use your Munis system, your entire enterprise system, we've got to get more people comfortable with computers. There are significant equipment issues. shortages of equipment, downtime on equipment, waiting for a part, waiting to, in the past, diagnose what's even wrong. There's been a lack of preventive maintenance and maintenance in general. And as I mentioned last time, there are purchasing issues. So I think that your new fleet manager is on the equipment in terms of what's creating that downtime and how do we come up with some plans to deal with that. And I think that I'll talk a little bit later about some ways to try and unlock the purchasing issues that are occurring. Next slide. There is a concern among your DPW and transportation supervisors on up to the leaders that there's a lack of manpower, but partially due to absences, either because people are calling in sick or they have a large bank of accumulated leave, and so they can take off 2 weeks at a time, 3 weeks at a time. One of the leaders said he's just taken off every Thursday because he can't keep the leave that he's already accumulated. We really talked quite a lot about that because obviously if you have more equipment than you have people, that's a problem. But on any given day, you switch back and forth. The reality is that most public organizations who have long tenured employees end up with this problem. So they talked about, could we buy back leave? Could we do something to reward the people who aren't taking leave, especially when we really need them to be at work? When they have an open position and the authority to fill it, they have problems. It takes them a long time. It takes a long time to get posted, takes a long time to get the candidates in. They would like that to go faster. And then there are some positions that have not been filled for quite a long time. Those are frozen. And so I think, there's still this thought that we really got to be fully scaled up. This issue, the next bullet, some high-performing employees work harder than others, and there's no way to reward them, so it becomes very demotivating for those employees. Why am I working so hard? This guy's just doing enough to get by and keep his job. Nothing great happens to me. We are trying to investigate that and figure out what is possible. You're working into a performance management system, but you're not quite there yet. So how could we do that in certain cases? What would it take? What would you require from the manager in order to do that, et cetera? A lot of your employees love working here, but they like to progress. And the career paths for employees are not clear. Employees want to know what they are and what certifications or skills they need to move up. And finally, and I mentioned this last time, there is a lack of clarity about what is an employee performance problem, who gets written up, who doesn't, how does the write-up work, and what are grounds for termination. And we intend to try and add that on to some of the supervisory training that's going on. Next slide, please. So I'm going to shift now to what happened in the DPW and Transportation Leadership Retreat. And one of the questions we asked was trying to get input from these leaders. What should be our priorities? What should be Ascension Parish government's priorities? And I was really delighted with the responses. I think Cody and I really we don't hear these kinds of responses all the time. Citizens in Ascension Parish want to feel safe and secure and know that their property is protected. And obviously a lot of people are going to live in Ascension Parish and are homeowners and flooded out, and this is top of mind. You're doing great. You don't have the crime rate that your neighboring parishes have, and they feel good about that, but they think that that's really a priority. They believe that people want to live in a place where there's appropriate infrastructure and it's well maintained, not too much traffic, good roads, and good neighborhoods. And as long as government's able to help make that happen, then we'll continue to attract people here. Employees, shift from citizens, want to feel like if they do what is expected, they'll have job security, and they want to have pride in what they do. That was a very enlightening and wonderful conversation about just feeling proud of being an Ascension Parish employee and helping to make Ascension better. And finally, there was a lot of discussion towards the end of the day about what it used to be like to work for DPW in Ascension Parish, and the camaraderie that they had and the teamwork that they have, and the lack of a contentious relationship between council members and administration and department heads. Didn't all always agree or like one another, but if you put up the next slide, someone actually sent me this photo after the retreat, because the people in the photo, who I will not try and name, represent various parts of Ascension Parish government, DPW workers, council members, and administration. So I think they had a lot of fun with events like this. They have recently been cooking for people in Lake Charles and trying to help out in some community service ways, and they find that very fulfilling. But back in the day, they would have fishing tournaments and prizes, and one day a year, everybody would have a great time. We can't probably do the prizes like we used to because of ethics laws, but we can figure the rest out. So stay tuned and get your fishing poles ready. Next slide. So then we asked the administration to go through some similar exercises as we did in the DPW retreat, kind of a whiteboard session, and same sort of thing. Let's try and figure out what the issues and roadblocks are through individual meetings to help understand people's career paths and personal goals, and then an actual retreat-like format to talk about mission, vision, and values, which will come up again. There is an administrative book club. The book that they started with was 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. It was evident that some of the people that gathered for this whiteboard session had talked about a lot of concepts about teamwork and building a culture of teamwork, and how important that was. And finally, and this really, SSA can't take credit for half of what's on this slide. Your DPW director decided that we need to go see some other organizations who have a reputation of being high-performing organizations, see what they do. And I think their first visit was to Iberville Parish. And you need to get Ron to tell you the story if you run into him, because he said they literally drove up and could see the difference from the outside. Vehicles and equipment parked neatly and nicely and appearing well maintained, and from that point on, everyone they met, very approachable, very welcoming. So I think there's going to be an effort from administration to visit some contractors in the area, private businesses, but these are great ways to get sort of a bird's eye view of another organization and bring back good ideas. So really proud of them for that. Next slide, please. We talked about what were going to be the priorities. What is it we need to do in order for people to realize sort of success? Everybody wants the parish to be successful and parish government to be respected. So the first thing they talked about was building public trust. We're not going to be able to make big changes. We're not going to be able to really have the public work with us until the public trusts us. And they're not going to trust us until we start doing good things and acting like we're trustworthy. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. It was wonderful that came up. They talked about changing priorities from one administration to the next. And in some cases, not having a continuity of leadership. And they said that's problematic. They'll get started on a program or something that's a priority, and then, a few years later, they have to shift to something else. There's a sincere interest in finding out what the council and parish president's priorities are, having metrics for those priorities, and then having regular meetings to identify and track those metrics. Again, they want better communications, not just with the parish president, but also with the council. And they want more leadership and management training for second and third level supervisors. The fact that we're not really measuring results and productivity really complicates this idea of creating accountability. And whether we're talking about an individual or a work crew or an entire department, I think they recognize how hand in hand those items go together. And finally, we do have some technological and software issues where other places have an easier time trying to measure results. And they've actually, defined their workflows and track things at all milestones throughout the process. And you have that with some things, permits, for example, with My Permit Now, but generally speaking, you're not really set up for that. I won't get into Cartograph. I think that we've made some changes and we had a great exchange with your very smart IT people in this retreat, and I think they're on it. So hopefully we'll see something soon. Next slide. We asked everyone in interviews, individual focus groups, and we also asked this administrative group, if you were parish president for a day, what would you want? And there was a lot of discussion about the gaining public trust. Build a strong and better relationship between the parish president and the council. A lot of your leaders, again, who live in the parish say that's all people want to talk about with them. Why can't they get together? Why aren't they working together? Is it really like it looks on television? So that's something that they would like to help with. And then we talked, as I said, on the next slide, about our mission and just did some brainstorming to build a great parish, providing the very best service to our citizens in an efficient manner. Our mission is to meet the changing needs of a changing community, constantly reevaluating how and what services are offered and finding innovative service deliveries. In pursuit of this mission, data will be used to drive decisions, track progress, measure outcomes, to prove public service, and to do it at the speed and the cost of the private sector. Do the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people at the lowest possible cost. So you start seeing some recurring themes in what we talked about. We didn't want the group to come to consensus because we want the council to be part of this discussion. And the parish president was not at the retreat, and he needs to weigh in as well. But we think this is a real opportunity to begin to help some of your staff understand priorities. If you have a very clear mission statement, it helps them with every decision that they have to make, large or small. So we're going to come back to this one. Next slide. They had a lot of thoughts about vision, but this one was amazingly powerful. One department had said, when Ascension Parish employees walk into the annual police jury conference, we want other parishes to say the same thing about us as they do about our sheriff's department, our school system. There's a real longing for people to come visit Ascension Parish to see how does Ascension Parish do this. And where we could brainstorm a significant number of examples where that's occurred, they want your reputation to really reflect what they're doing, and they want to do what they need to do to get that reputation. So I just thought that was a fascinating comment. And again, we held off on really working on vision too hard. But on the next slide, we had an interesting discussion with the DPW technology, transportation leadership group, and I almost say I think they probably adopted this as their mission. And it's we will serve. I started seeing it on emails in the subject line coming back to us after the retreat. And it means something to them. And I think the opportunity to serve citizens at the frontline level means a lot to them. So stay tuned. That doesn't substitute for the parish mission, but it is something that's important to them. All right, next one. What's happening now? We're addressing some issues as we speak. Supervisory training started on Tuesday, such a welcome item because it was talked about so much in the first interviews that we did. Leadership training, Ricky Compton and Ron Savoy have been accepted into the Business Reports Leadership Academy Spring 2021 cohort. They only accept about 30 people twice a year, and it's pretty competitive. They'll be in there with C-suite leaders from the private sector, as well as a few people from the public sector, so it ought to be an interesting experience. Fleet, as I mentioned, is conducting an audit, and they're in the process of developing a comprehensive fleet management plan. As I said, we're trying to really drill down to understand the issues in purchasing and how we can do a better job of getting people what they need faster. And we're also investigating productivity improvement. So this mismatch that we have between manpower, trained human power, and equipment that's operable means that sometimes the leadership in DPWs, they're putting supervisors on tractors because they just got to get things done. I mentioned buyback on vacation time, the possibility of some spot incentive pay for a crew that's worked extra hard or an individual, and then reducing the turnaround time when we're filling positions. It's hard to know how many employees you need when you have employees, but they're not always there. So that's sort of the DPW transportation leadership level. And I want to take a minute and just give you an update on finance, budget, and shared accountabilities, the work that I mentioned we were going to do through bringing on Patrick, most recently from the state of Louisiana. And we still have a hard time 5 years later figuring out how many authorized positions there are. Patrick did, after lots of discussions with your finance people and HR, figure out that the parish budget has the most authoritative or accurate listing of positions. So they don't all match up, the different places that they are, but that's probably the best listing of it. And so they're going to work back from that, HR and finance, working to reconcile discrepancies between positions in the budget and your Munis system, which has the HR records. For example, some people who are active employees are listed as inactive. It's hard to figure out what department people are in, et cetera. So we're really working very hard on that one. We're also working on the budget process, looking for efficiencies, ways of making it less cumbersome to your folks. And the opportunity for involving department heads in budget development and tracking. It's hard to hold a department head accountable when he or she has not created their budget and isn't really sure where money is and how they could save it or redeploy it or request to redeploy it, et cetera. They need training. So they need training in budgeting and how they could make suggestions to shift some of the ways that they're doing it now to how they could do it in the future. It's a classic example. Finance has gone out of their way to help department heads to the point of putting budgets together for them, which is wonderful, except that then the department heads don't know what's in the budget. So we've got to move from finance being benevolent and doing that to more of a joint accountability. And finally, Patrick has been looking at budget reports, looking for opportunities to better communicate summary information and do that more effectively. Next page. We're working on strategic planning and performance measurement. A good strategic plan for the parish would have mission, vision, values, goals, objectives, and performance measures. And so I will just tell the council that we would really like to have a council retreat. We would really like to have the council give input on what you believe is the mission and what your vision is for the parish and what the values are. Those are such fundamental sort of tools in an organization, and some of these will should last past any one administration or any one council, but you can tell the difference when you work with an organization that really understands this down to the frontline worker. We want to identify existing performance measures. They are tracking some things, and what's that available data? More fiscally transparent website, that's in progress. And then fixed asset and payroll processes, looking for opportunities to collaborate and streamline, as I mentioned before. Almost done. Next slide has to do with just a quick update on looking at mental health and public health. The assessment that Our Lady of the Lake is doing. They gathered data in their phase 1 assessment, and they've been analyzing that. And one of the big opportunities seems to be the opportunity to bill Medicaid patients, which the parish does not do now, and Medicare, which will be additional revenue to offset some of the services. I think, you have dedicated money in those areas, and people have been very frugal, and but if you had additional money from Medicaid, et cetera, then you could really expand some of those services. We're also looking at the opportunity to draw down grant dollars. We've looked at a number of parishes who have really had great success putting up $2 million and getting $7 million, for example. There's opioid grant money that's available, and in both federal dollars and state dollars in public health, we have the opportunity to do some things. So that's pretty positive. Your department directors over both of those areas have been most cooperative and most responsive, as we've had to go back and ask them multiple questions, and they're being patient with us. And we have gathered quite a bit of best practice data from other parishes, and we're hoping that we'll have preliminary recommendations for you in February. So that's it. Madam Council Chairwoman, happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Looks like she got froze. Travis, are you there? Vice Chair, Terry?
I'm back, I think. All of a sudden I was gone. Did we lose anybody else?
I got cut off too, but I'm back.
Okay, so Christelle, I can't thank you enough. I feel like I've been waiting for years and pleading for years for this kind of information and this kind of action. So I'm so grateful to you. I'm grateful to this administration for continuing to pursue these efficiencies and effectiveness work. And so I'm just so grateful. And I certainly commit to you that you and I will talk this week or early next about a council retreat. And we will get that together so that we can contribute in the way that the members of our team would want us to contribute. It did not fall on deaf ears, I'm sure, to any of these gentlemen, that a good cooperation between the council and the administration was a desire of our employees. And when our team needs us to cooperate, then we need to ensure that we do. So I think from there, if there are any members of this council, this team that have questions or comments, I will take them. Mr. Cagnolotti.
Yeah, just real quickly, Terry. Christelle, you mentioned the retreat. I think it was DPW Transportation Supervisors Retreat. How many attended that? You didn't mention the number.
Transportation had their top 2 people, and DPW had probably 4.
It was 8 total.
8 people total.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's a good representative sample.
It was
Thank
literally the direct reports to your department heads.
Great. Next questioner, Mr. Lawler, I think you had a question?
Yes, thank you. A couple things. I'd like to see maybe if the administration can work to create a time-bound action plan on a lot of these. I think there are a lot of good ideas moving forward, whether it be, the fleet audit and development of maintenance system there. Even something as simple as how DPW parks their vehicles and keeps them clean. I'd like to see a time-bound action plan on a lot of the things we heard. I'm not going to go into each one individually, but I think that would put a lot of us at ease and give us an opportunity that we will know when we can expect it to be done and ask questions at the proper time. Also, one of the things I noted was a lack of continuity of leadership from administration to administration was mentioned. Part of that is, of course, systemic in our form of government. That's something that the people would have to adjust. But are there other ways, and I guess I'm asking Christelle for her ideas, other ways to create continuity within government?
Councilman Lawler, you are right. It is inherent. We're not at all suggesting, nor was the group that participated, that you change your structure or form of government. That's not the solution. The solution really lies in tools that I think in Ascension Parish you use. Sometimes you don't have as many in place as maybe some other parishes who've been concentrating on this. Let me give you some examples. So certainly ordinances, anything that's put in the ordinance has a better chance of sort of lasting. Anything that's put in the budgets can be changed, ordinances can be changed, but those are more sort of permanent types of things. When you see an administration, for example, totally eliminate a department or a division or something, even outsourcing a department, which I've seen in East Baton Rouge Parish, for example, it gets hard to bring it back, even if there's a tremendous desire to do so by the next administration. So those are probably more severe or heavy tools. But then you have things like codes, building codes and subdivision codes, master plans, anything that's adopted by the council. You all adopt a pay plan. So can in Ascension Parish, parish president come in and move people around on their salary ranges? Yes. He or she mess that up? Yes. But not as bad as they could if you didn't have a pay plan at all, which we have seen in other parishes. So those are the kinds of things. And then all the way down to policies and procedures. Councilwoman Casso said we've been at this for a long time. Most of your departments had no policies and procedures 5 years ago. Now some of them do. But the more we can begin to capture those workflows, and here's how you do this, and here's a form that's online that you download if you want to take a personnel action. Those are the kinds of things, even though that is a very temporary, easily changed example. Those are sort of the things that you would expect to see. And I do think that you're making progress on it. I think it's much better today than it was 4 years ago, but there's still the opportunity to do more.
Thank you, Christelle. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Cody, for the work that you're putting in on this. It's appreciated. For the administration, one question for them. Grants, we heard during this presentation that there are opportunities for some grants out there. I know that we could be more aggressive. I'd like to see something maybe in the next 6 months, a plan to how we're going to get more aggressive on grants, not just for the opioid issues, but for every single department and every single part of government, how we can make progress on that. And that's all I've got. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Malasan.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I actually have about 12 questions for you, Miss Christelle, but I'm gonna leave most of them to a private conversation. I'm gonna call you and we'll just talk like we normally do. But I did want to piggyback on kind of what Aaron was just talking about, and it's something John Diaz and I actually talked about, I don't know, months ago. Is it out of the realm of things to start putting in place by ordinance, budget, and whatever else it encumbers, that we put a system in place for a smooth transition of administration to administration? Maybe like on election year, we put $30,000-$40,000 in a budget. That way, incoming parish president and his high up administration, and we can give them a timeline. By ordinance, we allow these people in the Glass Palace, in the parish building, say come around, late October, early November after the election's over. They can start doing their transition meetings. They can have some staff and just make things a little more smoother to move along than kind of what's happened in the past. And him and I talked about that one time, and Aaron just kind of made me rethink about that. I just want to throw that out there for something else to think about in the future. Whenever this administration leaves, if some of us are still here, it needs to be a smooth process. Whether that's 4 years or 20 years from now, we need to have a smooth process. We just seen on a national level, if you don't have that, it's chaos. And on a local level, it can be just as volatile. And so I would like to see something put in place for us to make that a little better. Thank you.
Councilman, I have seen that in gubernatorial transitions at the state, but it's strictly at the pleasure of whoever is the governor who's leaving. But I've seen where they've had templates and asked department heads to give certain information and their priorities, the projects that are in process, and key people. And I think that's a marvelous idea. I think that's a really good idea. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Wagaspat.
Yeah, I wanted to thank the administration and Christelle. That was a very good presentation. I'm kind of like Chase. I'll probably have about 12 questions, but I'll probably email some of them. But high level, sort of talking about what Aaron was talking about, time-bound initiatives. Can you kind of explain to me your role in establishing that action plan and establishing who does them? Because I heard some things that seem that are like HR related, some things that are, about budget that'll be financed. Is this something where you guys look to the administration and the leadership team to suggest what that path is? Or is this something where you guys actually lay out that path for the administration and then get agreement on it? Because, and before you answer, I could see if the parish council becomes involved in that, how do we get involved in setting that action plan and who does them?
Right. That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. So, what is going on right now is really going to require a cultural change inside your workforce. And if you went to one of your, plants or Blue Cross or another parish government, research shows a large organization, if you really want to change a culture, it takes about 5 to 7 years. And you got to stay with it. And you got to be doing exactly what you said all along the way, be building up the processes and the knowledge and the capacity of everybody at every level. I think that our team feels like you're making amazing progress. 5 years ago, we published a report, and most of the recommendations in the report are just now getting implemented. And there's been more done, would you agree, Cody, in the 6 months that you all, since you engaged us in about August, than we saw in a long, long time. There's tremendous sense of urgency for that. So where are those priorities coming from? I think they're really coming from both. And, a lot of it are things that we knew before that we're going back to make sure that we assessed it correctly. And we're suggesting certain priorities. There are some things that administration feels are priorities, but I have to tell you, Councilman, I know there's not a uniform consensus around what the parish priorities are. And until we get that, we got your staff right now, at least in DPW and transportation. They're with us. You're going to get blown away with these survey results. It's so exciting. But if we don't meet them halfway and help them understand what really is a realistic expectation, and if you only have this much equipment and this many people, what can that do for you? And is this service more important than this service? And these are important questions, and the council, honestly, that's part of the retreat, is having those kinds of discussions. And that way you're helping administration realign resources to meet the high priority needs. So I think it's a great question. Nobody's sent us home yet. We've had some discussions about what we pursue next. And some administration thinks, let's go faster on that one. Some we think, we've got to get started on X, Y, Z. But generally speaking, I think that there's significant change and it's all for the better. And so we do want to hear council ideas.
Okay, and just to piggyback that answer, so I appreciate that. That was a good answer. And do you guys suggest ways, when I hear, the administration may have priorities, we may have priorities, do you guys suggest processes that have worked for other organizations, such as, I know me and John always talking about budget, and it's a big thing with me. If we can understand budget and numbers, how do you build that into priorities? Do you guys give us guidance on that? And, it does take, as I heard the employees say, and probably a lot of the parish constituents think, that the parish council and the parish president need to work better together. So do you guys suggest a path to that where numbers, budgets, and adding those into priorities where we keep the politics a little bit more out of it and actually focus on true data? I mean, do you guys, at the end of this road, is that something that's a deliverable out of this process?
It should be, and we hope that it will be. And yes, we have worked with a lot of other, especially parishes in Louisiana, some who do that very, very well, because exactly what you said, they have processes and they have accurate data that they can rely on, and they have generally agreed upon priorities about where they're trying to go, what they're trying to reduce, what they're trying to expand, et cetera. And I think we're pretty close to that, being able to sort of put people together and think that through. And we, I hope, the retreat would be the first step in that. That would be sort of a kickoff. We make progress in the retreat, but then, come back and put in, as you said, time-bound implementation. So if you're going to have a report on a priority once a quarter or every couple of months, then that needs to be calendared. And those are the kinds of things that stand the test of time. So I absolutely agree with you. And in fact, we have our team at SSA that has a lot of public organization experience, but now we have specialists, Patrick in the finance and budget area. We are supporting him, but he's really taking the lead on that. Our Lady of the Lake in some of the health areas. So you have some real subject matter experts who are helping, push the rock. So thank you for saying that. I wrote that down. So we're on it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd say looking forward to it. Anything I can help with, looking forward to working with the administration. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.
I see two more questions. Coach Thomas.
Yes, thank you, Chair Lady. I want to just ask the question whether your observation had it reached DPWIT yet?
Yes, all of DPW has been part at the leadership level of, beginning down that road. And there'll be more sessions like that, as well as on the survey. And we've interviewed just a real high percentage of people. And we have heard a lot of comments about what the West Bank needs and where that falls in priorities. So yes, sir, they have been included, and we've captured everything that's come out of that.
What do you think about the, I heard, I think WAG just mentioned the culture change on the West Bank?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of interest and focus on the West Bank. And I'll just give you a couple of examples. Talking about giving greater access to mental health and public health. You have a federally qualified health center on the West Bank. That's great, but there are some services that are more available on the East Bank, both in mental health and public health. And that can be remedied either by moving services to the West Bank, providing transportation for people who have appointments and need services to the East Bank. There's a lot of creative solutions that people are talking about. And so I think, there is a top of mind awareness for that. Your parish is growing. There are still undeveloped areas of the parish, but I think a lot of people see a uniqueness and a charm in parts of the West Bank, and they want to capitalize on that. Main Street sort of emphasis on small business growth and retail growth and tourism and that sort of thing. All of these things have come up in one way or another in some of these discussions. So yes, sir. And I think, they're all real opportunities that we've seen other parishes capitalize on.
We thank you very much, and we look forward to progress in developing the West Ascension West Bank, starting it and getting it moving. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Robert.
Yes, thank you. It's a great presentation, a lot of good information. I do have a few questions. One of my questions is with the problem with your vacation time and your overlap. So you have so many employees, but you still have you can't fill work weeks. Just a couple of things that I thought about, and I didn't know if this is something that could work in a government type situation is, what if well, there's two things that I thought we could do. One is possibly offer to some of the employees to take all of their vacation at once, to where maybe if they had like a month or so accumulated or more, if they take it all at once, maybe give them a increase in vacation of 5%, 8%, give them some type of incentive to do that. And if you have that ahead of time, you could schedule those employees out through the year. So your vacation is not taken throughout work weeks. You have all your work weeks pretty much staffed with the majority of those people taken out. That's one thing. And the second idea was to do shifts with the equipment. Whenever we have equipment and more employees than equipment, have we thought about doing different shifts? And I understand we can't go out there at midnight cutting grass outside people's homes. But when we talk about maybe 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and then maybe some rural areas cutting grass in the summertime, or doing some of the work where it's not near homes, get them out of the heat. You can share some of the equipment, split some of the shifts. And that was two of my ideas on that. What is your thoughts on those?
I think that that came up less from the staff and more from some conversations that we've had while listening to the staff. I think both of those are excellent ideas. And, if you are going to encourage, especially your long tenured employees to, for example, take their vacation in a block of time, and you do that in the non-grass cutting time, you'll have a lot of people out, but it's less painful than when you need people and they want to go on summer vacation, they want to take the month of June off. That's just impossible to do. So your supervisors and managers have done a good job of explaining to people, just because you have the vacation time doesn't mean you get to use it exactly when you want to. Mm-hmm. But I had not heard the idea of encouraging them to take it in blocks. So for scheduling purposes, great. So thank you.
Absolutely. And the other idea of the shifts, I didn't know if that's practical there's a lot of reasons that I could see why it wouldn't work. But construction work and whatnot, they're able to work nights, and a lot of times they're more productive because they don't have traffic. They're not in the way of people. And like I said, we have to consider people trying to sleep, and a lot of this equipment makes noise. But has anyone in parish government really gone to night shift and day shift in the busier seasons?
I don't think so. We have not heard that, and I think that won't solve all the problems, but I think it's definitely workable. And you can figure out how you use it where you can, like you said, in rural areas or start earlier, knock off earlier, have a second shift come in. The more, your point is well taken, the more you can schedule things in advance and schedule downtime for equipment maintenance while you have people on vacation. It's not just a sea of, oh my gosh, this is a disorganized mess. So I think they're getting better and better at doing that. But I think what you're talking about is really that next layer of let's come up with some real creative and innovative solutions to utilize the investment we have in our equipment. And I think that could be, that could take place in IT. I don't want to walk out of this room because they're probably going to line up and just want to, mow me down. But, you see it in private industry. We're going to do a planning retreat tomorrow with a company that produces sausages, and they just have a new plant and they're trying to get it up to speed. And first thing they did was put on a second shift. So, you do what you have to do, get more done, and then everybody reaps the rewards. So thank you for those suggestions. We'll definitely look into this.
Thank you. And then a different subject, I was actually very pleased, almost a little excited to hear the employees wanting to have more of a relationship with the council members. I know that does bring up some pros and cons, because myself and the parish president have had conversations on this in the past, because I'm kind of like, I'm a people person, hands-on when it comes to the jobs where my constituents are there. But I have to be sure never to direct or do anything to these employees or try and tell them what to do, because I don't want to, it's not my job. I'm not trying to redirect their work from administration. But in the same token, I think when I go out there, and if I go out there and I'll say hey to them on a job and see how it's going, or even supervisors, I'll meet them in jobs a lot of times, ask them to call me. I feel like that gives them, or gives us a little time to know each other. But if we were to take that to another level, more on the, away from just on the work, because they're saying more of the non-contentious and more of the, person to person, get to know you level. What I feel we lack between administration and the courthouse and all of them is like some type of common lounge / recreation / retail / coffee shop area within our complexes. And it could be as simple as several of them, one in each complex, to where it could be a coffee shop where we have a ping pong table. It could be as simple as in DPW, have a few ping pong tables in the back and a pool table or so. Places that it lets us go through at particular times, maybe end of day, middle of day, certain holidays, and go hang out with employees, say hey, and it gives us something to do other than just stand there and say, hey, how's everything going? And it kind of gets beyond the business of the day and lets you kind of open up to the personal aspects of it. And then just the retail, not necessarily selling much, but like gum and your different needs that people will go to a convenience store for. You have that in the same little place as a coffee shop. It encourages your employees on their breaks to go. And, as council members, I know I would, and I'm sure the others would, when we're going through and passing by, if we have time, go through and talk to whom's there and whatnot. And I feel like it would do the same amongst the employees themselves, kind of like a cafeteria type vibe. I don't necessarily know that we'd have to go that far, but a lot of workplaces socially are formed around lunchtime or cafeteria time or those types of events throughout the day. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think they're great suggestions. I think that, the awkwardness that you talk about of showing up, whether you're a council member or the CEO or whatever, it is awkward to just show up and then it's a big deal. We have somebody important here and everybody kind of stands around and stiff. And so, having coffee and donuts, having a ping pong table. I like a dartboard. You may not be able to have sharp darts, but something that's just easy and kind of helps people relax. Now, think about DPW and transportation. They leave the yard, they're gone, and then they come back. But I really do think, and I think this is a great topic for a conversation in a retreat-like setting. should we tell you where some of the crews are going to be every so often? So you could go by and actually see them working and thank them, talk about what they're doing. They can talk to you. I just think we can be more intentional about some of this, and that's what you're really talking about. So, and I will just, and I know, Madam Chairwoman, you're watching your time, but I was in a committee meeting today for a university, and someone told the story of Margaret Mead, the great anthropologist, and asking her, when you study a civilization, how do you know when they become civilized? What are the artifacts that you find? Is it broken pots, or is it arrowheads, or what is it? And she said, that's a very easy question to answer. It's a healed femur bone. So your femur, right, it's in your leg, right, I think. So if you think about any other predator, when they break their leg, when they break their femur bone, there are other predators and they're dead, except for humans when they are civilized, because someone takes the time and energy to pull that injured person to a place of safety and to try and defend them until their leg heals. And the sense that I got listening to that story this morning on the Zoom call was very much like I felt when I had your DPW and transportation leadership in the room, and then also with some of those key department heads. I think you got a real shot here to do something remarkable. People are starved for it. They like their job. They like the parish. They like working for the parish. Again, not everybody, but the vast majority. And we just help them a little bit, like you're saying, where we're encouraging them to build trust and to really have teamwork. We found, Cody can tell you, we found pockets where there's excellent trust and excellent teamwork. And if you could just get more and more of those, it would really pay off for the parish. So we'll definitely look into some of those things. I'm sure there's some other places to go. So thank you for this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dempsey, did you have a question? Councilman Lambert, I thought I saw that you had a question. Oops, now I've lost him.
He dropped off.
Okay, so until we get him back, I think we'll end this discussion at this point. I apologize. Oh, there he is. Dempsey, you had a question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome.
You know, the from start to where we, as of today, all the departments, have they been interviewed?
No, sir, they have not. That was going to be our initial approach, was to spread ourselves thin like peanut butter. But I think we jointly agreed that a real drill down DPW and transportation was probably a good idea.
Okay, and you said earlier we had 92% approval rate on this?
Oh, no, sir. No, it was a 92% response rate. So
okay.
That they don't all approve, but a lot of them do. So, but just having that many people respond, we don't see that very often in other organizations.
Okay. And look, I appreciate everything y'all have done so far, but I'm here now, retreat. How long, when are we going to wrap this up? How much longer do you think you're going to have to, continue this after the retreat?
In terms of trying to push for improvements, well, our contract, we're about halfway through it. So, but somebody's going to have to keep it up, keep pushing. And hopefully we're building some capacity and will in your leadership, and some of your people who've come from outside have helped with that too.
Well, it's a lot of good things coming out, but we'll just keep an eye on it and keep going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christelle. We appreciate you so much. At this time, gentlemen, we need to move on. The parish president's report is concluded. The public comment call-in period is certainly concluded, and we have a couple of folks waiting on the line to make their comment. So I would like to give those folks just a couple seconds to turn their TV volume off and be prepared to speak to the council. Cinnamon, if you'll let me know they're ready to go. They're ready to go.
We have Mr. Ryland Percy on the line. He wants to speak on 8A, which is a zoning review, ID PZ 2441.20. The zoning for rezoning for Shane Anderson, which was denied by the zoning commission.
We welcome Mr. Percy.
Welcome, Mr. Percy. Thank you. Do y'all have the exhibit that I sent up? You do?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, as she said, we're here to talk about the recommendation to deny Mr. Anderson a zoning change. If you look at the exhibit that I sent, what we're talking about is the land that came up. We cut and paste, but it came from a survey. And you can see at the beginning is the shop that he built there, and his house is in the rear. Across the street is M&B and the Cluite family, and the Cluites own all of the property across the street. Mr. Eugene Joseph has his house to the left. Now, below Mr. Joseph's house, it's not labeled on there, that property belongs to Price LeBlanc and is currently, I believe, has a commercial zoning. So it is bounded across the street by light industrial from the Cluite family, and the rear portion of the property, the largest portion of the rear portion of the property, is bounded by commercial that leads to the airline highway. Now, Mr. Gautreaux, who lives next door, and this situation is certainly not his fault, but we have a situation here that came about. When Mr. Anderson bought this property, he first consulted with people at the parish, and throughout the process of his building, the buildings here, a process that took over a year. This all started back in 2018. He worked with the parish. He got permits from the parish. They inspected the buildings. They knew what was going on, and no one said, you can't do this. And he continued. As a result, he has invested between $400,000 and $500,000 in the facilities that he built. And then after it's all built, he's told, no, you can't do that. We feel that this is a situation that should and could be worked out. As I said, it's not Mr. Gautreaux's fault that we're here. It's not Mr. Anderson's fault that we're here. It's a bad situation. We suggest that missteps were taken. As the parish was being consulted, there were missteps, but we feel my client is more than willing to sit down both with Mr. Gautreaux and with the parish. We have tried to set up these meetings and have been told, no one from the parish will meet with you. Now, I'm not pointing the finger and blaming anybody, but I would certainly think that the parish has some interest, or should have some interest, in sitting down to see if there are reasonable accommodations that can be made. All of the other neighbors have signed affidavits saying they're fine with what he has done. Mr. Gautreaux is the only one who won't, and if you look at the map, you can see where his house is to the right. Now, my client is willing to put up pampas grass. He's willing to change his lighting. He's willing to make numerous accommodations just to be a good neighbor here. And that is the direction we'd like to go. If you can't find it, to overturn the recommendation of the zoning commission, all we're asking is a reasonable period of time with everybody at the table, including the parish, to say, what can we do? My client is out almost $500,000. That's not a sum that he can just walk away from. And we don't, I've been in the business for 30-something years. Litigation is not the way to go. But we would like to find a way to work our way through this, let neighbors work it out with the parish, in conjunction with the parish, and let's do this without a fight. And that's what we're asking. If you can't see your way to allow him to do the zoning change, we ask that we get a continuance or whatever you call it at the parish level of a month or two to let all meet and let's see what we can do without fighting about this thing.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Percy. We appreciate you. And
Thank you.
I believe that there's a second caller.
Mr. Barry Gotro would like to speak on the same item.
Thank you. Senator, give me 1 second. Let me get my timer reset here. Okay, got it. Mr. Gotro?
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Gotro. Thank you for your patience.
Hey, good afternoon.
We appreciate both you and Mr. Percy working with us on this, the delay in getting to your calls tonight. If you would go ahead, please, you have 3 minutes, and I allotted Mr. Percy about an extra minute and a half. So if you need a little more time, I'll be happy to do the same for you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Council, for your endeavors in working with the parish and building a great community. The rezoning request that you're about to vote on tonight has been an issue for me and my family since April of 2019. It's very apparent that the permit to build a residential shed, which is what Mr. Anderson applied for. He applied for a residential shed. He did that to probably not to comply with the commercial requirements. We contacted the zoning department, and I'm told that this commercial business operating in a residential community has affected our home, my family, and the community as well. Mr. Lance Brock wrote Mr. Anderson a letter in September of 2019 telling him that he was in violation of the Ascension Parish ordinances, to which Mr. Anderson did not comply. He continued operating his business. Soon after that, in October of 2019, Mr. O'Neill Parrington wrote Shane a letter telling him that he needed to cease operation of this business. So for me right now, it's not a zoning request. Even if he were allowed to change this zone to mixed use, the business that he's operating would not comply. He is more light industrial or medium industrial. So if you were to approve mixed use for this applicant, he still has a hurdle to face. He is in total violation of the parish ordinances, and he continues to do so. I think there is no resolution, Mr. Percy, in a minute there may be a resolution between me and Mr. Anderson, but you can't stop sound. You can't stop sound from huge trucks pulling in and out day in and day out, all hours of the night. He's operating a business that he did not apply for. And again, I don't think it's a zoning issue. It's more of an issue that this business needs to be shut down and stopped. The building also is located too close to the highway and should be moved back to a proper setback. So I just think that even if you vote to allow this mixed use, he's still going to be faced with moving his business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gotro. And by the way, you were right on time. All right. Thank you very much. I want to remind you, gentlemen, that we will not be debating this issue or have questions on this issue until we get to it on the agenda. We will move on now to the consent agenda. Does any councilman wish to have any item removed from the consent agenda? Yes, Ms. Dozeron.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Good news. I was able to speak with the administration on several of the questions I had with the items we had discussed earlier. Those have been clarified. However, I do believe that item J4 we could benefit from a little further explanation as to the status of that. And I understand that the administration has Mr. Ricky Compton available to give us some information on it. So if you wouldn't mind removing J4 from the consent agenda, we can go forward.
I'm happy to do that, sir, and I will add that on as 7G.
Appreciate it. Thank you much.
You're welcome. Thank you. I want to thank the councilman and the administration for working together today. When a councilman notifies me that he has an issue with an item on consent, then we can get with the appropriate folks in the administration, try to get his questions answered. So I appreciate that Mr. Ogeron took that step today, and I thank the administration for its responsiveness to his questions very much. Okay. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of number 4.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Cagnolotti to approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions, any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item 7A, under general business, acceptance of the lowest responsive bid for oil and grease, Suncoast Resources for general use across parish facilities.
Motion to move.
Pardon?
Motion to move.
Have a motion by Mr. Melanson, a second by Mr. Mason to approve. Are there any questions? Mr. Wagasback.
You're on mute, Val. This is 7A, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I had some questions that I emailed Mr. Devin Russ today and actually O'Neill. So as I looked at this item, it kind of sparked my interest that, you know, we did an itemized bid list on these different items, but they weren't weighted per volume. They were just weighted per item. And, you know, this made me question about when we bid things and they have certain items that are way off as far as in relation to the other items. You know, somebody could actually bid on some items that don't have a lot of weight to win a bid. So I did ask these questions. O'Neill and Devin both responded, and I maybe want to ask the administration, are we looking at the way we bid things, and how can we, you know, as we talk about metrics, this actually goes back to what SSA was talking about. How do we decide if the way we're bidding an item, if it's an unbalanced bid, or I think O'Neill used the word, he used the word, you know, everything's bid specific, or sometimes it's bid item only. I mean, as an administration and as finance, how are we revisiting these contracts to understand if we are bidding them correctly to bring value to the parish? I know it's a pretty open question, and I'm not against this item, by the way, but I just wanted to ask that question because as I looked at this item, it kind of looked like there were some items where 5 or 6 of them were just the price of the winner was way off.
Thank you, Mr. Wagasback. Who's going to address this issue from the administration? Mr. Parrington, do you have any anything to say about
the way this is bid? Because of the way we bid, because of the public bid law, this is for multiple departments. And so when we bid this item, it's basically we're getting a unit price, but then it's being requisitioned by department. So the fact that you do it, if you did it item by item, it may cost you more in administrative and matters like that. So it's legal the way we're doing it, but that's the problem. If you're going to buy more than $30,000 unless you do it by different, like the parish buys for the fire departments, everything like that. So it's an issue that can cause a problem with the public bid law.
Okay, no, and look, I accept that answer. And maybe, you know, I didn't tax one person from the administration to answer me. And I do appreciate Mr. Devon's feedback and yours. I guess I'm making it as a suggestion, maybe for purchasing, as we talked about some purchasing issues earlier in SSA. Just wanted to bring it up, you know, might be a good idea to look at the way we bid certain contracts and understand if we're really bringing value and spending dollars wisely. And it doesn't really matter the amount of the contract to me, because if you're doing it on multiple small contracts, it may add up to a big amount. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I mean, you know, we could discuss it at a later time.
Thank you, Down. Mr. Lawler?
Issue, you can't have, excuse me, that is the problem when you're going to buy something. You can't have multiple small contracts because we're buying as one entity. That's why that's one of the reasons it's done like this.
Thank you. I have a question too. After Councilman Wackersback and I, we actually discussed some of this, and I've been brainstorming about it since we talked about it. O'Neill, would it be legal, and I think Councilman Wackersback alluded to this, to weight the different items that we're bidding on, and say that we're bidding on gravel, sand, and leaves, that if we know that we are estimating we're going to use 500 tons of gravel and 50 pounds of leaves and 20 tons of sand, can we weight each like that and then multiply that estimated cost that each one does it, so that we don't have somebody intentionally low bidding on the leaves that we're going to use 20 pounds of, but they have a much higher price on the gravel, which we know we'll be using much more of?
It would depend on how we bid it out, and that would be, because you would have, you know, here we have no minimums and no maximums. So somebody, you'd have to include that in your bid documents, how you intend to do it.
And is that legal to do?
It's legal to do if you included it in the bid document itself, but then you may have a minimum that you're going to have to buy whether you need it or not. That would be your problem.
My thought would be, though, that the departments should all have an estimate if we're going to do long-term budgeting, even short-term budgeting, of how much of each item they're going to use, and could at least have that as the minimum, thereby
Yes, I mean, we could do that as a minimum and a maximum. Yes, in the future, that would be a way to do it. That's one way to look at it.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Wagensback.
Yeah, we don't need, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, no further discussion is needed. I did want to make the comment that this has nothing to do with this contract in particular or the person that won it or the other bidders. It was just a general question. As I looked at it, it just made me ask these questions. How do we look at contracts, and do we really know how efficient we're being in spending money if we don't look at that process and make sure we're doing the right thing? So I just wanted to make that comment that it wasn't particularly about this item, but more about our bid process and how we tell how good we're doing.
So noted, sir. I appreciate that. Are there any objections to the approval of this item? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item B, approval to apply for the fiscal year 2020-2021 Community Water Enrichment Fund Grant, $64,550. Yes, Ms. Ogeron? Motion. Have a motion.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Ogeron, a second by Mr. Cagnolati to approve. Are there any questions? Hearing none, are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. 7C, approval to apply for the 2020-2021 Louisiana Government Assistance Program Grant, $100,000 funding, no match.
Motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Cagnolati. Are there any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item D, amendment number 4 to the automated fleet fuel system and supplier for on-site dispensing, off-site dispensing. Have a motion by Mr. Lambert, second by Mr. Wagensback. Are there any objections? Questions? Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item E, approval to hire an independent auditor to audit the billing process of PUA and ACUD number 1 from 2016 to 2020. I have a motion by Mr. Thomas. Second by Mr. Robert. Are there any questions? Yes, I see questions. Mr. Melanson.
Yes, ma'am. Just on this agenda item, we didn't have any information, except for that line item. I mean, so are we going out for RFQ or RFP? I mean, what's the conditions here as far as us hiring someone? Are we asking parish president to hire someone under his $25,000 contract to execute this?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Is that the expectation? We're going to ask President Quinmall
Yes.
to use his $25,000 authority to hire an auditor for this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Ogeron.
Thank you, Ms. Terry. Earlier in the week, spoke with President Quinmall regarding this item. We want to amend the motion, the item as it's stated, to audit billing process, to authorize the parish president to retain an independent auditor to audit the entire financial records of PUA and ACUD number 1 from 2016 to the present. And that gives us the opportunity to expand and get a better understanding of everything that's taking place with the water company.
Thank you. I
And
have a
since
motion.
Mr. President is there, I think, is that your understanding as well, Mr. Quinmall?
Whoops.
And he disappeared on me.
Sorry about that. That mute button's real close to the camera button, and I got a little aggressive. I shot over to the camera and dashed out on y'all. Yes, I have zero problem. The more information, the better. I want to make sure that if we cannot do it for under 25, we will need to go to y'all to do that. So I'm going to do some pricing first to make sure that's in my purview, within my limits to do that. Now that we're kind of expanding it a bit, I don't know where that number is going to fall now. So I'll have to get back with some pricing there. And if we cannot get it under the 25, then we'll have to put it on as an item for y'all to approve.
Fantastic.
Very good, sir. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Are there any objections to, as amended? Then that motion passes as amended. Item F, which is a resolution to direct. I just suddenly muted. Excuse me. Item F, a resolution to direct Ascension Parish government through its president to prepare no later than February 19th, 2021 for council approval to call for an election in accordance with Louisiana Revised Statute 33-4341 on April 24th, 2021 for the qualified electors in Ascension Parish to approve the conveyance and franchise agreement. Mr. Melanson.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'd like to make a motion to approve, and I would also like to to offer talking to CAO Diaz and whatnot this week and a few other council members over the next few months, as best as we can with COVID. If we do some open houses, kind of like we did with our master plan in 2019. And a good starting point, I believe, would be maybe talking with the school board and see if we can utilize our high school gyms, and that way we could hit all 4 corners of the parish, hit all 4 high schools. Let's have as many open houses in large facilities as we can, and also we ought to do a few virtual back and forths, even if they're just information, and we can take some there's some virtual. This is a very detailed, intricate document that we've worked on for, I don't know, 18 months, give or take, maybe a little bit more than that. There's a lot of information here. Council and administration, we believe this is what's best for us and all of our constituents. And so I just want to offer, some opinions on how we move forward, educating the constituents how we move forward. And I would just like us to utilize that idea, potentially working with the school board to where we can use high school gyms and we hit all of our main areas and whatnot. And that's it. Thank you, Chair.
So I have a motion, the chair, Mr. Lawler. Second, have a second by Mr. Lawler. You're muted, Mr. Lawler.
Oh, yeah, I was going to second. I had discussion also.
All right, you can go ahead, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say that I'm excited that this is moving forward. This is a long, as Councilman Malansa suggested, this is a very long process, and we're reaching the end of it. This started approximately about 2 years ago and has been through a couple iterations. And I think some other people deserve some credit here. Councilman Satterley, former Councilman Satterley, Doc Satterley, really pushed this hard. He understood the environmental impact and the health benefits of getting a sewer system in place. And he was an early proponent of it. He never let up. And I must say that without him, we would not be in this position. As administrations changed, things take time, and momentum was lost just because of change. People are getting new to office. You start to lose your place a little bit. But Councilman Ogeron then stepped in and really took the reins and pushed this and got the momentum going again. And he also deserves a tremendous amount of credit for keeping the momentum on a very important issue. And really then after that, President Quintmaw and Chairwoman Cazzo got together and formed a committee. And it was Councilman Malansa on there, Councilman Wagensback, and myself, and we sat down and we really first talked amongst ourselves about what is the best thing that we can do for the parish and for the citizens of the entire east side of the parish when it comes to sewer, because this actually touches everybody. You may not have sewer at your house, but I can assure you, and you'll hear in the upcoming months, how this affects really everybody in the parish, including people on the west side, tremendously from a financial standpoint. And we got together and we created this idea that we wanted to move forward with. And it wasn't until we had agreement amongst ourselves that we decided to move forward and start discussions with the Bernhard Capital Group. And we really realized as we did this, that this is not an agreement between two adversaries. This is a partnership. And that was very important amongst everybody involved. So this was a lot of hard work. And I want people to know that care and concern went into forming this document and the agreements that it contains. So a big thank you to President Quintmaw for his participation, his input, and a big thank you to Councilwoman Cazzo, made that mistake, I apologize, for putting together a committee. And I can tell you, we wouldn't be here with Councilman Malansa and Wagensback. I mean, just took this thing by the horns and got it into a great position. So I'm really excited to move forward with this and to teach the public more about what this means for them and the benefits that we're going to see. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Aaron. I appreciate that. And I know all of the others that you mentioned do. I want to make one comment, then I'll get to some others. I want everyone to realize, particularly, I know all of you know on this body, those in the public, that the approval of this resolution tonight is not an approval of this contract. The approval of this contract is by the public through their vote. And so what we are approving tonight is the language that is going to be put in a resolution asking for a vote. And that will be approved by a vote of the people. I have to tell you that this has been an extremely long process, and it didn't just start in the last couple of years. It started, I think, maybe 10 years ago. So we've had many runs at this, and it is so important that even after 10 years, we were still fighting for it. And I can tell you that there was a lot of angst around it. And particularly this year, I want to thank President Quintemont for joining with us and beginning to refocus and to see, as Aaron described, that we had a partnership possibility here. And then as it turned out, we have an opportunity to perhaps take the parish of Ascension out of the delivery of sewer on the east side, which would, in our collective opinion, be the very best thing that could ever happen for the citizens of this parish. So I appreciate it too. I have a motion, a second, and is anyone else want to make any comment? Mr. Ogeron.
You're on mute,
You're
Corey.
muted, Corey.
Sorry, I said thank you, Terry. And I believe I've made this commentary once before. Long time ago in one of my political science classes, Wayne Parent, who was one of my mentors, advised me that the making of laws and the making of sausage are very similar. No one wants to see either getting made, but they like the results when it comes out positive. And I think in this particular situation, there were many times where, because we were strong advocates of our position and our people, people went head to head and face to face in disagreement, but with the full understanding that everyone at the end of the day wanted what was best for the citizens. And I think we did that. And I'm proud to say that we're in a good place, and I think we're in the right direction. But I wouldn't be Corey Ogeron if there wasn't a however. I've read through the documents that we have, that we've posted. We do not have a price tag on the sale. I think we need to put a dollar amount there before we move it forward before the public. I think we're lacking that aspect of it. From a legal standpoint, I'm not really sure that we can put a resolution in place today that says we're suggesting we're going to sell these assets without having a price tag. And so I think we need to do an addition or an amendment if there is a price tag. If we have agreed to a sales price, I would suggest we amend the documents to do so and get that finalized completely. And then we can move forward with it.
Thank you, Mr. Ogeron. It's been heavily discussed, and there are legal reasons why at this time we cannot do that. I'm happy to have, John, are you prepared to go over that?
Yeah,
I mean,
no. So Corey, we've had some discussions recently with attorneys on both sides. Your concern is the ultimate decider of what we're going to get for this is the Public Service Commission, and we don't go before the Public Service Commission until we put this on the ballot. So theoretically, we don't know what we're going to get for this. We know what the appraisals came in at, but once the voters approve this at this range of numbers, it then goes to the Public Service Commission, who decides what this actually is worth. So so the initially our attorneys told us that there had to be a number on the actual ballot language. That turned out to not be the case. We do not have to have a dollar amount on there because we technically don't know it.
Thanks, John. And again, I don't get all those emails from our attorneys. I wasn't aware that they changed their mind, but I'm glad that that's been clarified. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Don't feel bad, Corey. We just found that out today.
Is that because I was asking that question earlier in the week?
Actually, a lot of folks were, but yes, it doesn't hurt when you ask. Mr. Cagnolotti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to thank all the committee members for the hard work they put into this, as well as the parish president. And I strongly agree with what Councilman Melanson said. You know, we need to take time in the next few months to get this out to the public, call them town hall meetings, information meetings, whatever, but to get the information out to them. And In addition to the school board, Chase, the sheriff has some facilities throughout the parish. I'm sure he wouldn't mind contributing. And we, the parish, have some facilities too, like Lamar Dixon might be a great location. So just a suggestion, but thank you everybody for all your hard work.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Again, I would like to congratulate the process and the time limit that we have allowed ourselves to get to with the sewer. And I hear that the most of it is, all of it is on the east bank of the river. And I just want to piggyback on the water on the west bank. It's been a long time coming for the sewer. We've been dealing with this since '96, and each year, I mentioned it to a couple of councilmen. Each year, the price go up. The longer we wait on not doing it, the prices went up. But in talking and listening to Chase and getting the information out to the public, that's going to be very, very important that we convince the constituents, convince our people to understand what's going on and what we need to do and how far we have come. So we definitely need to hit the ground running with that and get in the town hall meetings. I'd like to, with the water on the West Bank, I pretty much, fighting for the people and get me. I'm not here. I'm not one to sell to a private company, and I think we need to do everything we can to help our people, and then not a private company. This private company, to me, and I wanted to say it back then, but I didn't say it. I'm not going to. The private company is not going to take care of people like we're going to take care of people. Also,
Mr. Thomas.
Yeah.
Mr. Thomas, can I ask you to save your remarks on the water on the West Bank until there's an item on the agenda relative to the water on the West Bank? Because I'm afraid.
I just have one minute.
I'm afraid, sir, that the public is getting ready to confuse your comments about our sewer item on the East Bank with your thoughts and feelings about the water situation on the West Bank. I don't think it's fair for that to happen. So if you'll please indulge the chair, we will not have any more discussion about water on the West Bank. Thank you very much. Are there any other comments about the sewer on the East Bank? That is the item that we are discussing tonight on the agenda. Mr. Melanson.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it brief, Chair. Also wanted to reiterate to the public. So this document is actually our document, from the meetings, council and admin together. We actually drafted this document from scratch with our lawyers as compared to the past when we were sending a document that modified. And I just really want people to, to know that, because I think that goes a long way. This originated with us. And I just really want to put that out there, because I think that's a huge aspect of this that I want people to understand. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments on the sewer on the East Bank? Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can give over the last 10 years, 42 million reasons why this is a good deal. And over the next 20 years, 100 more million why it's a good deal. And that's real numbers. When I stood at the podium last December and previous Councilman Randy Kluwat made me promise to work with this company, ensure we negotiated fairly and extensively. I want to say that I couldn't have held that promise or kept that promise without members of this council taking part in that process. And, we have gone through and had rigorous debates. We have gone through countless versions of this document. And thank goodness Chase is not going to hold up all of them. I'm afraid he'll pull it back out like he did at the last meeting. We've added so many more to that. But this is clearly the best way we're going to have clean waters in Ascension Parish when it comes to sewer. And I'm really excited over the next few months of explaining that to the citizens of the parish, along with y'all, along with this NWI, to explain why this is the best deal. And it came out of a lot of discussion, a lot of working together, a lot of compromise. And at the end of the day, I think we got a deal here that the people of Ascension Parish can get behind. And it's ultimately going to give us clean waters, which is a goal that we all have, as well as saving tons of money. And that's a good combination. I don't care, what way you look at it. And so looking forward to the next few months, having those discussions with the public. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Quintmall. It's been an honor and a privilege to work with all of you. We have a motion, a second. Are there any further questions about sewer on the East Bank, excuse me? And are there any objections to this resolution? Hearing none, that motion passes. Thank you. It's been a long time coming. All right, item number 7G.
Take a breath, Chairwoman. You seem a little excited over there.
Oh, I'm telling you, you just don't know. Oh, goodness gracious. Item number 7G is actually 6J number 4 from the consent agenda. If you'll flip back to 6J number 4, that is the animal shelter renovations, BRP construction, a $290,988.89 expense. And Mr. Ricky Compton, I understand, is here to help us to understand this at the request of Mr. Ogeron. Mr. Compton. Ricky, you're muted, babe.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Here we go.
We all do.
So one of the questions we got as we started to get our foothold here with the new administration was, could we make some improvements where Kara's house currently is located? They had some roof leaks and they had some electrical concerns. So we went and did an investigation, and we made a determination that what they're dealing with over there it's unfathomable. It's not fit for not only the animals we're trying to save and rescue, but the people that are working there. So we started to put together a vision for what we can do to prolong the life of that facility while we generate some funds through the animal tax that the citizens passed to go ahead and start working on the plans and the big picture vision for where we build our next facility. But the money we're spending today isn't going to be wasted, because when we move the animals out to their final location, it's my vision to use that facility for my maintenance staff and perhaps even my grounds maintenance crew by dropping some walls on the new roof. We'll have all new electrical so I can build a shop, and we can create a location where our guys can do real maintenance work out of.
Mr. Ogeron.
And Chairwoman Casso, Ricky, thank you so much for that info. I was receiving questions during the week. Why are we spending $300,000 to repair a building that we intend on replacing and moving Kara's house? And Ricky's answers were fantastic. I wanted the public to hear the reasoning and the justification behind doing this. So with that, I move that we go forward with this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Ogeron. I have a motion by Mr. Ogeron and a second by Mr. Mason to approve. Are there any further questions? Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Ricky, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
All right. Flipping back, we are now at item 8A. This is a zoning review ID PZ number -2441.20, Lot A1 being the re-subdivision of a Lot A, formerly a portion of the James E. Gore property for Shane Anderson, located on the south side of Louisiana Highway 431, approximately 1,500 feet east of Airline Highway, to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium-intensity residential RM to mixed-use corridor MU. The zoning commission recommended denial of this rezone. You heard comment earlier from Mr. Percy representing Mr. Anderson and from Mr. Gotro representing himself. And at this time, the chair will open the discussion with Mr. Robert.
This is located in my district, and I was contacted by Mr. Barry Gotro months ago. And I've been talking back and forth with parish president regarding the same matter. We met at Mr. Shane's place. I really couldn't tell you. I mean, maybe 2 months ago, somewhere in that time frame. And then we set up a meeting to go talk to Mr. Barry. I made myself available, very available, as a mediator and as someone to move this forward. I was never contacted, as was said, to do such a thing. But that brings me to my main point of how this was done. This particular business is permitted as a residential permit. I mean, the specs of this building are specs to residential specs. It wasn't done correctly from the beginning. It was told to the parish from the beginning that it was not a business, and it is. It's a business, and I don't want to have my constituents that are across from this have to deal with someone violating zoning to open a business and then come back later and try to make it okay by asking for forgiveness after they're already doing wrong. With that said, I make a motion to uphold the Planning Commission's decision on this denial.
I have a motion by Mr. Robert and a second by Mr. Lawler to approve the denial. Do I have any questions? Mr. Lawler.
Yes, thank you. I want to note, I was given a copy of the permit. I spoke to Mr. Gotro today, and it does state that it's a residential shed storage detached. In further evidence of what Mr. Robert indicated, what he said, and on the permit, I noted that it said no transportation impact fee, which would be consistent with building a residential shed. Had the intention been all along to build a commercial building, there would have been a transportation impact fee charged at that time, and there wasn't one. That's part of the reason why I made the second. I was also given a video of this area at night, and to hear the trucks, it was unbearably loud. And that's from Mr. Gotro's house across the bayou. It was unbearably loud. It was very intimidating to me. So I stand by my second on this. Thank y'all.
Mr. Melanson.
Thank you, Chair. I also, and Councilman Lawler kind of stole a little bit of my thunder there, but a few other things. From day one in September 2018, when he pulled a permit, it seemed that he intentionally wasn't honest about the intentions of the shop. I live right down the road from there. Every morning at 4:45, I pass this place of business on my way to work, and there's anywhere between 3 to 6, maybe 10, 18-wheelers, started up and running there with the lights on early in the morning. So my biggest issue with this, I'm actually in favor of the rezone to MU, mixed use, If you look at our master plan, it fits the mold, and it's off of airline. But what Mr. Anderson is facing here, even with a mixed use zoning, he is still extremely out of compliance. He needs a medium industrial zoning right there to be able to have the trucks and everything he stores on the bed of the trucks. So if we were to approve the rezone for the mixed use, I'm actually okay with that. But that doesn't help Mr. Anderson any, which I don't fully understand why he's asking for a rezone in mixed use. He's no better in the mixed use than he is in the medium intensity right now. And look, I will support the motion on the floor. And just for the record, if Chair will indulge me for 5 seconds, I'm gonna play. So this is the video that I actually have two. I actually have 2 videos. One at 4:45 in the morning from Mr. Gautreaux, and one at timestamped at 8:42 at night. Mr. Gautreaux standing on his front porch, and this is. I'm gonna just kind of hold it up. Mr. Gautreaux standing on his front porch. No, you can't hear it. I don't know where the speaker is out on this iPad. Oh, well. It didn't give me any justification. But Mr. Gautreaux standing on his front porch. He sent me multiple videos from in the morning at night. And these trucks at 8:42, whenever they're shutting them down and these jack brakes release, you can hear them through his windows. So zoning is there to protect the residents. And I don't believe that we're doing Mr. Gautreaux any justice by allowing this business to continue. Thank you.
Mr. Ogeron.
I'm glad to say that I'm more than willing to trust the opinions of my colleagues, since I haven't had the opportunity to go to this location and verify the claims of the parties. I said, however, if Mr. Anderson applied for permits, put his business into operation, and the parish did nothing for years to verify that he was in compliance with what he initially did, I think the parish bears some of the responsibility for not overseeing what these individuals are doing in the parish. And I think working together with Mr. Quintmore and with the zoning commission, maybe we can institute some practices that would allow individuals within the parish to follow up on these permit applications and on these processes to ensure that they are in compliance. You know, I'm hearing from all 3 of my esteemed colleagues here that, you know, he made the application, and I think one of them said, he went outside of it. Another one said, it was dishonest. And if that's the case, we need to have somebody within the administration, within the zoning committee, going out there and verifying that everything is being done accurately and properly, and then take actions before someone gets his business in operation like this. That's all I had to say, but I think, at some point we need to step up and recognize the parish itself has some of the blame to this.
Thank you, Mr. Ogeron. Mr. Lawler.
Yeah, I want to step in a little bit on that and defend the parish on this. The permit was issued. It looks like it's really small, but it looks like September 19th of 2018, and that's for the building. Now, I don't know when the business started, but less than a year later, a letter was sent to him from our planning team, Mr. Brock, stating that he's in violation of this. Subsequent to that, less than 2 months later, a letter came from our district attorney's office, once again stating that you are in violation of our zoning laws. So I think the parish acted properly on this. I don't know when the business started, but I severely doubt that it started as soon as the building was up. That's all I'm saying.
And for that, Aaron, thank you so much for the clarification. And with that being the case, I was misunderstanding the commentary that you and Joel were saying as far as the length of time. So I mean, I appreciate that. And I was not challenging Lance. Lance and I have been friends since I moved here. It's just, I'd like to see a procedure in place that this isn't the first time a situation like this has happened. And I'd like to make sure that we have a policy in place that's going to protect the citizens more so than this. But thanks, buddy. I appreciate your commentary. Really do.
Well, I feel bad for Lance now. Haven't been friends with you since you moved here.
There y'all go again. He's picking, Corey. And I know
listen, that's quite all right. I recently learned where he lives. It lives, and that's perfectly fine.
I know you'll get even. Mr. Malonzo.
Yeah, my question is, it might actually be for Mr. Brock, Mr. Lance. I see a blue shirt in the tiny background. Maybe that's Mr. Lance. I can't tell. But I'm looking at the, y'all, my wife, I apologize. My wife just let my dog out. So I'm looking at the plot plan. Does it appear that this shop is actually built in the servitude, in the right of way, inside the 75-foot center line?
Yes, yes it is.
Mr. Quitmore, I think there was a question on the floor from Mr. Brock, and the dog's got to stop barking because nobody can hear. Nobody can hear.
Yeah, I need to interject that Lance speaks.
Sorry, yes.
Litigation.
Yes, it is in the building line.
We're getting some feedback as well, so it's really hard to hear. Did I hear you say, Lance, yes, that it's?
Yes.
If I can get from the speaker.
Yeah, I think it's cleared up now. Mr. Quintma.
Okay, thank you. Due to possible litigation, I would not like the administration or Lance or anybody from the planning department commenting on this, because I have a sense that due to our comment period that that's where this is headed. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? Any comments? Have a motion and a second to approve the denial, to sustain the denial of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Are there any objections to that approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission's denial? Hearing none, that motion passes. That zoning is denied. Item B, zoning review ID PZ-2497.20, lots 42-A-1 of Ascension Commerce Center, 5th filing, and lots 51 through 56 of Ascension Commerce Center, 6th filing for LJ Grazafi, located on the east side of the Industrial Drive, approximately 1,400 feet south of LA Highway 73, to amend the Ascension Parish zoning code map, from light industrial to heavy industrial. The Zoning Commission recommends approval of this rezone.
Motion.
Mr. Cagnolotti has a motion. Mr. Mason has a second. Are there any questions? Mr. Robert.
I was just asking what the intention is of the property to need to rezone it to that.
I don't know if there's any really intentions other than to keep it in compliance with the remainder of Ascension Ascension Commerce Center. The majority of those lots are heavy industrial already.
So it's connected to industrial lots that are?
Yes, sir.
And they're all in the same complex?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm good with it.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion to approve the rezone is approved. Item C, approval to proceed to introduction of ordinance to amend the Development Code Appendix I, Table B, zoning tables, to add convenience stores with gas pumps in a light industrial LI zoning district. The Zoning Commission recommends approval of that amendment. Mr.
Motion to
Cagnolati.
approve.
Have a motion by
Motion to
Mr.
approve.
Cagnolati and a second by Mr. Melansal to approve. Are there any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 9, introduction of ordinances. Remember that a motion to introduce only requires one motion. There is no second required. Item A, introduction of an ordinance providing for the incurring of debt and issuance of not to exceed $5,965,000 aggregate principal amount of the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana revenue bonds, and one more series, library refunding bonds.
Motion
Our
introduce.
bond counsel,
Introduce.
I have a motion to introduce.
Motion.
Thank you. By Mr. Ogeron. Item B, introduction of an ordinance to declare surplus 2 York chillers from Lamar Dixon Expo Center, parish asset.
Motion.
Have a motion by Mr. Ogeron. Item C, introduction of an ordinance, budget amendment number 1, approval to amend the 2021 budget.
Motion to
Motion by
introduce.
Mr. Cagnolati. Thank you very much. Item 10,
Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Great meeting.
Night. Thank you all.